My perceptions of gays internationally, I've not done a lot of traveling outside the U.S., but I did grow up on the Navajo reservation, where it wasn't until recently that being gay was even an issue. If you look at traditional Navajo culture, there's actually a story of, in the beginning times, men and women getting into this huge fight. And the men living on one side of the river, and the women living on the other. And there were people within those respective sides who were able to have sexual relations with both men and women, and they were regarded as being valuable people because they helped preserve the species and iron out the differences between men and women. A modern viewpoint of that is that those people were hermaphrodites, people who were neither or a third gender. But what a lot of my Navajo friends tell me is that they were also regarded as, early gay and lesbians, although that's not in the vocabulary at all. You don't really have the same kind of vocabulary in the Navajo language that English does. So that was kind of like my background growing up, as far as gays and lesbians go. There were two teachers in our neighborhood who were lesbians. I was just told that these were two people who lived together and loved each other, the same way a man and a woman would. I believe that it wasn't until recently, with the influence of the greater American culture, especially since the reservation tends to vote Republican, that, being gay even became like an issue out there. I think that's definitely been from the influence of certain aspects of American culture.
I would say that it's more about gender presentation than it is about sexual orientation presentation, because you can go to France and see blocks and blocks of men who here would be absolutely thought of as gay by anyone with a glimmer of a gaydar, and then you'll see their children and their wives. It's just a matter of them being more comfortable wearing purses. You see purses all the time on guys in France, being more attentive to their overall physical appearance, sort of glammy shirts and things, and their gender presentation is much less an indication of their sexual orientation in France per se. As far as Mexico goes, I was sort of halfway innocently involved when I was 12 with a girl in Mexico who I'm 100% certain is very inclined toward women. And now she absolutely disdains that and is totally in the closet, and I think it's a lot less easy to be out in Mexico. I mean, that's sort of obvious. I don't know why I'm saying that.
America's very uptight about sex. It wants its nose in your business, and then even though it says, don't put your business in my face, I'm going to put my nose in your business. It's weird. That's why the pregnancy rates are so high here. Underage pregnancy, or unplanned pregnancy, I should say. America is so supposedly liberal and accepting of all these different views. It's still a big issue. Like, Hollywood celebrities are being chastised for not sharing their sexualities, or if they're straight, for lying to us even though they are straight. It's ridiculous. Whereas in other countries, it's not such a big deal there. If an actor's gay, whatever, they probably get more gay roles. Which is, both good and bad, being typecast, but, being activists. I went to Europe in high school, and openly gay people on the streets of Germany, openly gay people on the streets of Switzerland, it was really great. Most towns in America, you can do it, but there's still some where people are terrified to even do any kind of public display of affection, gay or straight, especially when you're gay. I mean, look at Matthew Shepard, look at Brandon Tina, Gwen Araujo, those are transgendered individuals, and a lot of this has to do with gender identity rather than being homosexual, because they don't actually know who you fuck, just how you present yourself. But you can do whatever you want pretty much in Europe. And Canada allows gay marriage, and it's wonderful. People are gay there, and they're not just gay, they're gay, and it's great. Not to say stereotype and flamboyant, but they're open, and they're honest, and they're happy, and I think that that is something that America needs to accept, because people are like that no matter what. It's just people are afraid to be like that because of this past regime that we had. But now that Barack Obama is president, I think that it will change slowly. Not immediately, but I think that we're on the path to being able to accept that.
I think reactions to homosexuality are different everywhere. When I was 17, I lived abroad in Slovakia for a student exchange, and it's a Catholic country, and it's a former Soviet country, and was once annexed by Nazi Germany, and so homosexuality isn't really tolerated there. If it's there, I guess my radar wasn't there for it. Because I was 17 at the time, and sort of like confused by everything and not paying attention to the subtle social nuances. I think it's more sort of behind closed doors. I think the way that it had been once upon a time in the U.S. I think in the U.S. now, it's more tolerated, but not really accepted. Because I think there's a huge difference between tolerance and people accepting things. Because I think tolerance is the way you allow something to happen. Well, I don't like it, but I'm going to just turn my head. Whereas accepting something is almost not even really acknowledging it as different, because it's not. More recently, I lived in New Zealand, and I think being out is, I don't know if it's more accepted there, but they're a little bit more socially liberal than the United States, especially in the past 8 years have been. Gay unions are allowed there. It's not this huge taboo, and gay tours and everything like that. So there's, I think, more gay-friendly locations, someplace like that, where there ever would be in someplace like Slovakia, because it's so Catholic and conservative. And, it's not so gay-friendly. Everything's changing though, constantly changing. I think with our new administration coming up, starting in January, with a president like Barack Obama, coming in, who's obviously much more progressive than George Bush has ever been, as far as homosexuals in the United States are concerned. I think we might find a little bit more acceptance as opposed to tolerance in the country. I have been to Slovakia since I was 18, and they've joined the EU since then, and I think things could be very different than how I saw them when I was 17. If I were to ever go back and actually pay attention to the social nuances, then maybe it'd be completely different, and I wouldn't even think of it as the same place. So I think everything is sort of adaptable to change, and I think eventually everything has to, otherwise the world's going to self-destruct. So